This is a demonstration of what to do when you have tons of data all in one data set and you want to somehow split it up. Basically, you can go to Data Tools and you have your export options here. You can export all records, so that would be everything in the current database. And let's go back and see. I have a demo here, and look how many different projects I have in here. Lots, probably your situation where you have lots of different projects. Maybe you'd like a few of them together, but most of them you'd all like separate. Maybe you just want the current year's set. So what you would do is you'd go to Data Tools. And you'll notice over here I have some drop downs that all of them say all. But if you click one of these, you can see that same list of projects, so that individually you can export these to a data set. You know, and it can be based on the project, the applicant owner. So you might have one, like you might have Department of Transportation, a whole bunch of different projects, and you can export all of their different projects out in one batch. Maybe you have different investigators, all of their subset of the entire data, and you can even do start dates. You can do everything from one set of years. You could do all 2017s out. So you have almost infinite options. So you'd put start date and end date in there for that. So export all records right now, I recommend that's what you do right off the bat, and it's going to produce a file that's going to say WetForm and then Midwest out and with today's date stamp on it. So note that a lot of these will have a date stamp on it, and let's do that to start with, because you may want to rename that. Otherwise it'll just keep getting overwritten and overwritten with that same date stamp, and you don't want to do that. So let's export everything. And so it didn't take long, but it tells you that the file you just exported, see, WetForm, was successfully created. Now you can go to WetForm, find that file, move it to a different hard drive, a project subfolder, your main backup drive. I highly recommend that you do this on a regular basis and get it in multiple locations, including potentially the cloud, because these aren't very big files. This file is just raw data and doesn't have all the bells and whistles of WetForm, but you can import it again. So I'm going to say OK. Now suppose you have a different computer and you want to import all that data. Down here is the import zone. You can append that data to something you already have, or you can overwrite all the data. In other words, clear that file out and import all that data. So right now, let's see, I'll just look at how many records we have here. And right now, we've got, let's see, I can't see the number down here. It's a little bit too big. But it's something like 116 records. Okay? Just as because you want to know how many records you have. So when I exported all the records, it went into a file that's in my WetForm folder now. So suppose I want to just do a subset. Let's do this one right in the middle. Columbus Underground Reservoir Wetland Mitigation Site. So we're going to export, you've got to use this button now, a subset. So it's going to include the investigator or all in today's date. So let's just see what the file looks like. So it's going to be C:WetForm, WetForm Midwest all 2023 blah blah blah. So it's exported today. Now this is where you definitely have to go back and rename things, because everything that you export, any subset, is going to have the same name today. So you would have to go in here and rename this as Columbus Underground Reservoir MDB. Okay, let's see if I'll do that. It's going to look a little messy, but I'm going to go to my C drive, go to WetForm, and probably sort it by date. And there it is, WetForm Midwest All. See, and you could rename this as Midwest, and then just call it Columbus. And then the export date, always good to just keep that. Okay, so that now you can go back and export the other ones one at a time, and then just keep renaming those data files. And highly recommended is you get these things onto a separate drive. I mean, backup, data, backup, backup, backup. So now you can copy this to like a project subfolder on that same computer, or send it to somebody working somewhere else to work on it, add on it, that sort of thing. So we come back here, and let's see, another thing I kind of recommend is that you print some of these things out and put them in the project folder. So right now we're on Data Tools. Let's go to Print Sort. See, once again, you can just have printed copies, which is kind of like a secondary backup, which is always nice to have. But you can go down here and go to the Columbus project and print report with no photos, with photos, photos and map. Those are all things you can add. Extra photos. We're just going to print report no photos. So you can see it running through. And let's see. It didn't pop up like I thought it would. Let's do it again. And let's print report with photos. And the kind of screen goes too fast to really see it. Let me try to read it. So I think you go to your WetForm folder, we'll go to Date Modified, and I guess I need to check on that. Let me check on that. Oh, that's right. You got to start right here and select your output printer. Okay, so right now I had it going to a laser printer, which is, a waste of paper. What you want to do is pick your PDF, and I also have Cute PDF Writer here, and set as default printer. Okay, and then you can just close this window down. So now when you print report, it's going to come up with a screen to tell you what it's doing and where it's sending it. It's sending it to the Documents folder with this name. And it's always going to be the same name, so once again you're going to have to go there and rename that. I guess you could rename that here. Let's see if that's even possible. Not really possible. So you're going to have to, after you export it, you're going to have to go and edit that. So I'm going to say Save. Once again, I have a glitch. I shouldn't have been clicking around. Let me hit pause again. So there was something wrong with my Adobe PDF printer, so I'm changing to the Cute PDF printer. Set as default. Shut this down. Once again, we'll just pick a subset that we can back up as kind of a semi-hard copy. And you can always print it out and actually have a hard copy. Print report no photos. That does give us where we can put it. I'm putting it into Documents. We'll save. So once again, it keeps having that same name, so you need to overwrite that. So let's go to check that. Let's go to Documents. Here it is. So then you would rename that like Columbia. Or whatever it is you want to name it. And then we'll take a look at it. and you can see that everything's there. So, to get back to the main question, see if I can find things here again. What you want to do is either separate each one of these out, put them somewhere to back up, or you can export everything all at once. So let's go to Data Tools, where this really happens. So you can export all or a subset. Suppose you have 3 projects from this year that you would like to keep, and maybe those 3 projects happened over multiple years. What you should do is export each one of those individually and rename them, and then you can come back to this main database, and sometimes you can rename this main database as kind of your working database, and then have different projects in there. So you'd export, say, your 3 different projects, then you'd come to this one database that's sort of your intermediate, delete all the records, and then one by one append those 3 projects. So now you've got a database that just has just the subset of projects that you want in it. And then once again, you can split those out and deal with it that way. I guess the next question is it possible to delete a subset of data inside of a single database? And I'm not certain that's possible. There's only delete all records. So no, I think you have to export your subset of things you want and then bring them back into a new file. So for example, right now I opened this up from a folder. Yeah, I know I'm not going to find it now. Here we go. WetForm. I think it was this. Well, I'm not going to find it. But oh, here it is, I think. Midwest 2017. So what you're going to have to do is do things like rename this. And what I've done in the past, and I got to close it down because right now it's on a locked database. Let's just cancel that, and I need to close. I'm having a little bit hard time because I've got things blocking my view here. Okay, so I'm here. So I'm going to close this down, and then what you could do is just copy, paste, and then call this sort of your rename this as like WetForm Midwest 2023 working data. Okay, and then when you open that up, it's going to look exactly the same, but then you can go to Data Tools, scroll to the bottom, and clean it out. Okay, and you know, once again, this is going to make a backup. Okay, second warning of what you're doing, and it's going to make a backup anyway. So you've got something now in your WetForm folder called Midwest Backup, okay, in case you blow it like 3 times in a row. Alright, so now you can start appending certain things to this. So we can start by appending external data. Are you sure you want to do that? And here's your all. Here's backup. Let's go to date modified. So here's the backup we made from today. Here's that subset we sent out. So let's just bring just the Columbus subset in. Okay, so now if we come back here to page 1, you can see that that's the only project we have in here now. So you could append another project, you know, little subsets of data. So that's basically the Data Tools is where you're going to have stuff coming in and out, and all or some subset. and then you just have to organize your data accordingly. So I think that's the basic information, but we can have our discussion, and I'll post this so you can get a hold of it. Now I have to remember how to end this.